Memberships have been launched on my channel. If you wish to support me and my content, please consider joining my memberships. $2.99 will give you access to emojis, and I will reply to your comments. At $5.99, you'll gain early access and member polls. With both, I will shout you out at the beginning of each video. Coming soon, I am launching a Patreon, which I will update everyone when that will be available. Now on to the video. Trusting others is a double-edged sword. Sometimes the person is harmless and you can grow long-lasting friendships with them. Other times, they want something from you, to manipulate you, or target you for deplorable actions. One woman, who remains anonymous to this day, trusted a man who she only knew for a month and a half. She followed him to what she thought was his home, only to be trapped in a nightmare scenario. But her bravery and survival instincts allowed her to get away with her life, and Shawn Grate would be arrested. But this wouldn't be the end of the story. It was just the beginning.
What is the address to your emergency?
By the 4th Street Laundromat.
What is it?
4th Street Laundromat.
In the early hours of September 13, 2016, a 911 operator received a disturbing call. A woman who had been kidnapped on September 11th called in, but she hadn't escaped her kidnapper just yet. The woman, who has only been known as Jane Doe, was tied to a bed. She broke free and reached over her sleeping assailant. She grabbed at first what she thought was a phone, but it turned out to be a taser. But she found the kidnapper's phone and called 911. I'm going to play some of the audio from this 911 call.
I've been abducted.
What's your name? How do you spell your last name? Who abducted you?
Shawn Grate.
You said John Green?
Shawn Grate.
Where's she at now?
Asleep.
Where's she sleeping at?
In the bedroom.
In what bedroom?
There's 2 houses right by the laundry street, and it's in one of those houses.
But you're at the laundromat?
No, I'm in the bedroom with them.
What color's the house? Is it across? If I'm looking at the laundromat, which way is it?
If you're looking in the laundromat, it's one on the left of the 2.
You don't know what color the house is?
Yellow. Please hurry.
Does he have a car?
No. Well, he's down the street.
What's your phone number you're calling me from?
I don't know.
And you think it's a yellow house?
I think so, but it's on the left.
Is it an apartment?
No, it's a house.
Okay, does he own the house?
No, he broke into it.
Does anybody actually live there?
I think they've been abandoned.
And his name is Shawn Grate?
Yes.
Like Grate?
Yes.
Does he have a weapon?
He's got a taser.
What does he look like? Is he a white male or a black male?
White.
Is he like 6 foot or is he shorter than that?
He's like 6'1", 6'2".
Do you know how much he weighs?
Probably 175.
Are you injured?
A little.
What color's his hair?
Brown.
Do you know what color his eyes are? What's he wearing?
Nothing right now.
Okay, stay on the phone with me.
Scared, distressed, and having at least 2 nights in hell, she was afraid to leave the room, in fear of waking up the man next to her. She gives 911 operators his name, Shawn Grate, a man she had met during the summer while both were working at Ray and Joan Kroc Corpse Community Center, which is run by the Salvation Army. Religious and conservative, the woman had never allowed men into her home, and the 38-year-old woman had befriended Shawn Grate, her co-worker. She had considered him a nice man, almost like a brother. They would take walks together, have lunch together, even read the Bible together. Once he did visit her house for sandwiches. She made him eat outside because of her conservative beliefs. He confessed that he was attracted to her. She rebuffed him. She had thought he was harmless. But on September 11, 2016, he told her he had a bag of clothes for her at his home. Well, a home that he had been living in. He didn't own or rent the place. He was squatting there. She followed him there, and at first things were normal. She read scripture until he took the Bible from her, then told her that she was not going anywhere. Shawn Grate, a 41-year-old man who went from a kind and friendly person to a violent and sadistic person. She resisted, but he was much bigger than she was. He beat her, hands around her neck, squeezing. She must have thought she was going to die, but what happened to her would become much worse. He tied her to the bed, then essayed her in every way you can think of. He would leave the home, go get high and drunk, then return to do it all over again. When he wasn't there, she was bound in a way that would make it impossible for her to leave. He put makeup on her to cover the bruises he was leaving on her, and shaved a heart into her more private areas. For 2 days, this was the hell she found herself in. But on that day, he shut the door in a way that would wake him up if she slipped free and tried to escape. Laying next to her, he fell asleep. Knowing that she needed to fight, she found the courage to call 911. Here's more of that call.
Is there any way you can get out of the building?
I don't know without waking him, and I'm scared.
Is there a bathroom in the house?
Well, his bedroom is closed, and he made it so it would make noise.
And if you told him you had to go to the bathroom, he would do something to you?
Yeah, because he had me tied up.
Are you tied up now?
Well, yeah, but I kind of freed myself.
Is he in the same room with you?
Yes.
Is it his phone you have?
Yes. Are they on the way?
Yeah, we have officers we're sending.
Please send enough.
Okay, if you're worried, you don't have to talk. You can just set the phone down, okay? I just need to hear if the officers find you or not. Are you upstairs or are you downstairs?
We're downstairs. There's a door. There's a side door on the right of the left house, and that's where we enter. Immediately there's a kitchen right there, and then the bedroom is right off from the kitchen.
Are you bleeding from anywhere?
Not anymore.
What were you bleeding from? You don't have to talk if you don't need to, okay?
At one point, she accidentally discharged the taser, which startled Grate awake.
Do you know where he lives?
No. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. I woke him up.
You just set the phone down. Are you still there? Are you still there?
I'm a smoker.
He sat up in bed as she hid the phone, but he laid back down and fell asleep. Her anxiety rose, wanting to get out of the home, but too afraid to leave until the police came. She made her way to a window where she saw the police. The police had walked past. She informed the 911 operator that Ashland, Ohio police just passed her. Soon, she made a break for it, leaving the bedroom and making her way to the police. The police entered the building, finding Grate still asleep. He was taken into custody. Jane Doe was taken to a forensic examiner. The only thing that she had been fed was muscle relaxers for 2 days. While she was being examined, the examiner described her as fearful and nervous. She rocked back and forth during the exam. She had bruises and cuts everywhere on her body. There are other injuries she suffered that I cannot talk about because of YouTube guidelines. I cannot come up with a way to describe them that would be perfectly fine. When the exam was over, she shaved the heart off of her. She survived, but she was lucky, because as the police walked through the abandoned home, they discovered that this story is just getting started. As the police entered the home, in the downstairs living room, they found restraints fashioned from clothing on a chair, as well as in the room Jane Doe was kept in. Upstairs, they found evidence someone had been tied to a couch at one point, but then they went into the basement. The stench of decomposing flesh filled the air. They found the body of a woman named Stacy Hicks. They ended up going upstairs, and there behind a duct tape closet door, they found the remains of Elizabeth Griffith, still bound by the clothes that she was tied with. Now on to Shawn Grate, who, I'm going to give you a warning, you are not ready for the level of moron this guy is. It is astounding. While being interrogated, Grate told investigators that Jane Doe and Shawn Grate were going to get married, and that he merely kidnapped her because she wouldn't spend time with him. According to Grate, he kidnapped her because he wanted her to stay with him for a few days, and that she hid herself away with her Bible. To this I say, if you need to kidnap someone in order to spend time with them, you are not in a relationship, dumbass. He also said that Jane Doe beat herself up and that everything that he did was consensual, which are lies. And if he thought the police would buy this story, he was in for some bad news, because he had marks on his body indicating that his treatment of Jane Doe was not consensual, like scratches on his knuckles. The police even got him to admit that the sex was not consensual. He ended up admitting to what he did to Jane Doe. He was asked about Elizabeth Griffith, who was a 29-year-old woman who suffered from mental illnesses. She had been missing, and police were looking for Jane Doe to speak to her about Griffith as the two knew each other. Grate would tell them that he knew where she was and that she had been set free. When asked where she was, he stated the house he came from. According to him, she was thinking about taking her own life. And his method of trying to figure out if that's what she really wanted was to wrap his hands around her neck and choke her until she decided if she really wanted to live or not. Then one day, she didn't say anything, and he killed her, then tied her up and threw her in the closet. The police found this to be a lie, but because of how badly decomposed Griffith's body was, they could only conclude that she was bound and strangled. Stacy Hicks was a different story. She was down on her luck when she met Shawn Grate. Also called Stacy Stanley, she along with a friend were traveling in a car when it got a flat tire near a gas station. Stacy called her son to come and help. Grate was in the area, spotted this, and stopped to help. Stacy was thankful and bought him a cup of coffee. Grate was charming to her, and the friend left them alone. According to Grate, Stacy seemed into him, and they made their way back to where he was squatting. But at the last moment, according to Grate, Stacy decided not to go all the way with him, which infuriated him, and he ended up strangling her and throwing her body in the basement. Police had him for kidnapping, SA, and murder, but Grate didn't stay quiet. Instead, he confessed to other murders. Rebecca Lacey had died in 2015, thought to be a drug overdose, but according to Shawn Grate, he killed her. According to Grate, he agreed to pay Lacey for sex, but she had taken $4 from his wallet and he became enraged. He said he killed her and then dumped her body off the highway. Candace Cunningham was a woman he had dated for a small while. He dumped her body in a wooded area that he would later take police to, but then he confessed to his first murder. In 2006, 23-year-old Dana Laurie was a magazine salesperson going door to door selling magazines. She sold some to Grate's mother, but when Grate's mother didn't receive those magazines, Grate snapped. He found her, killed her, and then dumped her body. He returned a year later to remove all personal effects from Laurie's body and burn it. Her charred remains were found, and it took until 2019 to identify her. Grate couldn't remember her name, just the way he killed her and the circumstances that led to it. What started out as a frantic 911 call, the call of a kidnapped victim, turned into a list of of women that Shawn Grate had brutally killed. Shawn Grate was a monster, and he had all the telltale signs of one. On August 8, 1976, Shawn Grate was unfortunately born, and everyone in Marion, Ohio probably wishes he wasn't associated with that city. His father, Terry Grate, and his mother, Teresa McFarland, divorced when Shawn was 6. I want to believe that they were blaming each other for the abomination they brought into this world, but it probably wasn't the reason. Either way, Terry got custody of Shawn and decided he didn't want Shawn around, so Shawn ended up living with Teresa. The first sign he was an idiot, he was held back in kindergarten. Who in the Outback Blooming Onion gets held back in kindergarten? Did he fail nap time? Or did he try shoving crayons up his nose? Then he was held back in the first grade too. Despite being the equivalent of a goldfish in the ways of academia, he apparently had a good childhood. That changed fast when he turned 11 and his mother decided that being a mother was a hard job and abandoned her children. He ended up living with his dad for 4 years, where he would set fires and get in trouble with the law and school. He ended up loving baseball and he was a good player, till he broke his arm and it required surgery. So his dreams of being the next Babe Ruth went out the window, and a lot of people think this is when his darker fantasies came out. He ended up hating women because of his mother. He hated his mother with a passion for how she ended up leaving her family and caring more for who she was dating at the time. On October 23, 1996, he broke into a house to steal jewelry. This led him to being convicted of burglary in January of 1997. He was sentenced to 4 years, but he wouldn't even stay in prison for a year. He was out in October. He also grabbed a girlfriend by the throat when he was 18. A few years later, he did the same thing to another girlfriend, but this time he broke into her house. And this girlfriend was 17 years old at the time. 8 months later, he slipped into the young girl's home and hid under her couch with a knife. This landed him in prison for much longer, 4 years in prison. In 2003, when he was out, he went on to using women for his own personal gain. He didn't have his own residence. He leeched off of women he was dating. He was charming and nice to women at first, but then he would turn into a more sadistic person. He would father 3 children with different women. He married Amber Nicole Bowman in 2011. He had a daughter with her. He ended up isolating her from her friends and family, and was violent. Bowman would divorce Grate in 2012. But he would still terrorize her, texting her that he was preparing for the grand finale, and that if he couldn't see his daughter, no one would. But before Amber Nicole Bowman was Christina Hildreth. Hildreth met Grate in 2005, and they were together for 5 years. Hildreth had children, and Grate was upset with this. He didn't want to share Hildreth with other people. In June of 2010, he sent her to the hospital. She claimed she fell to the doctors who saw her, because Shawn Grate was in the room. While he was gone, she told the truth and begged for help. Shawn booked it out of the hospital and was missing for 4 days. And where he was found proves why this guy is a complete dumbass. He had crawled under Hildreth's couch, opened the bottom, and slipped inside. Hildreth at the time was staying with her mom, but she went home to feed her cats. She felt something was wrong and dialed 911, and the police found him hiding in the sofa. What tipped her off was a toilet seat being up and food missing. He was sentenced to 180 days in jail. So now you all have heard how this man is the worst human being on the face of this planet. For one, harming women pisses me off to no end. For two, his lack of intelligence astounds me. How the hell did he get away with murdering people? I am pretty sure he would get confused tying his own shoelaces. The fact that he got only 180 days in jail for what he did to Christina Hildreth when he had a history of this that was well documented is just mind-boggling. The criminal justice system, folks, completely screwed up. Shawn Grate's trial was something else. Even though he confessed to his crimes, he wanted to go through with the trial. The first was for kidnapping, SA, and aggravated murder. His lawyer was court appointed, and he pled not guilty. And if you guessed it was because they were going for the insanity defense, you deserve a cookie. The basis for this insanity defense was letters he wrote to the press where he claimed that all his victims were already dead because they were on welfare, therefore killed by the state. Even though Grate himself would get welfare, which he admits to in letters as the beginning of his downward spiral. Anyone else calling BS on this one? He was set for a competency hearing on January 6, 2017, which found him to be sane and debunked the whole insanity defense, which sunk his chances, along with Shawn Grate being Shawn Grate. Like I stated earlier, he was writing letters to the press confessing to his crimes, which isn't smart when you're going for an insanity defense. And both his defense and the prosecution ended up getting a gag order to get him to stop talking to the press because he was sinking his chances of life in prison. He also cooperated with police, confessed to all the murders, he had shown where the bodies were, he had even shown police what kind of chokehold he was using, which turned out to be a rear naked choke. So his lawyer had no chance to make a case for him, and the death penalty was on the table. Well, he was found guilty and was sentenced to death. Because he couldn't keep his mouth shut and give his lawyer a chance to give him life without a possibility of parole, instead he got lethal injection. On May 7, 2018, Shawn Grate was found guilty of the murders of Stacey Hicks and Elizabeth Griffith, as well as the kidnapping and essay of Jane Doe, who testified in the trial. She remains unidentified, and let's keep it that way. She has suffered enough, so no one tried to figure out who this woman is. Let her have her peace. On June 1st, he was given the death penalty. But that wasn't the end. No, he had more trials to go through. He was going to face justice for all his crimes. On March 1st, 2019, he pleaded guilty to the murders of Rebecca Lacey and Candace Cunningham. On September 11, 2019, he pleaded guilty to the murder of Dana Laurie. On these three, he was given life sentences. But that's moot, as he is awaiting execution. He was originally supposed to be executed on September 13, 2018, but his lawyers filed appeals, which only held off the inevitable, which is he is going to be put down like the rabid animal he is. His appeals were rejected. The Ohio Supreme Court ruled that his trial was fair and that the sentence was justified. So now he is on death row, slated to die on March 19, 2025. I am not one who always believes the death penalty applies. There are some cases where it is needed, and this is one of them. His treatment of women, his crimes, all warrant his death. Think about it this way if you disagree. If he was serving a life sentence instead, your taxpayer money would go to feed him 3 times a day, to house him in a facility, and he has access to some form of medical care. After he murdered 5 women, was violent with women, and kidnapped one and subjugated her to the worst hell imaginable, I would rather him be put to death. But I respect people's beliefs, and if this didn't change your mind, I still have respect for you. As always, this is just my opinion.